Well, hello again, everybody. This episode of the podcast, once again, is sponsored by 101 CBD. And that's because they have the cleanest, most effective CBD products that I found out on the market. Now, all of their products are made with raw CBD oil. That means that the oil hasn't been heated up or decarboxylated, which in turn means that the raw CBD oil is a more full-spectrum, whole plant extract. And that's exactly what you find in every product over at 101 CBD. Now, since that raw CBD oil is derived from hemp, it can be shipped discreetly anywhere around the world and anywhere in the United States. So go over to 101cbd.org, take a look at their products, order yourself some CBD oil, and at checkout, use promo code IMGS25 to get 25% off of that order. Now, don't forget, if you're a small-time home grower or a big-time cultivator, you can find out the sex of your plant 4 times faster by using the Plant DNA Sex Testing Kit from Delta Leaf Labs. Now, like I've said before, they make it really simple to take a sample from your plant. You send that sample in, and a couple of days later, after the lab gets it, you're going to know exactly what you have to work with, whether that's a male or a female plant, so you can make your decision that much sooner. So go over to deltaleaflabs.com, order your Plant DNA Sex Testing Kit today, and at checkout, you can get 10% off by using the coupon code IMGS10. Now, one last thing, I want you to save the date. That is November 9th, 2019, because that is when the CBD Health and Wellness Expo is happening at the Ventura Fairgrounds in Ventura, California. Now, there's going to be free health screenings there, along with workshops on stress, immunity, and fitness, along with others. There's going to be a lot of vendors there, like HempWorks, Sana Gente, Modern Merch, Ocean Gold CBD, and yes, 101 CBD, just to name a few of the people that are going to be out there. And of course, the In My Grow Show is going to be out there as well. We've got a nice booth right up front. It's going to be awesome. So make sure when you go, you come on by and say hello. Now, if you're interested in becoming a vendor, you can call 805-216-1927 for more details. But don't forget, that is November 9th, 2019 at the Ventura Fairgrounds, the CBD Health and Wellness Expo. All right, now let's get started. Brothers and sisters, welcome back. This is the In My Grow Show, the podcast dedicated to taking the mystery out of cannabis. I'm your host, Alex, and I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to me once again. I hope everybody's gardens are looking beautiful. My garden, my cannabis garden, kind of looks a little like crap, but I'll talk about that here in a little bit. So before I really get started with the show, I want to take a moment to thank Thursday Island Psychic Charity for putting together the new intro music for me. I love that thing, man. That theme song sounds a lot like the music that I hear in my head when I'm about to sneak up on someone and scare them. That's almost exactly the same kind of music that I hear in my head. He's a local musician, and the first time I heard his stuff was at one of the puff and paints that Happy Trees art class puts on. He was the live performer there. I really dug his stuff. You can find him on Instagram at tripped_keys. Go over there, go find him, take a listen to what he does, man. I like his stuff. So once again, thank you very much, Thursday Island Psychic Charity. Now later on, I'm going to play a conversation that I had with Mr. Mark Wasserman. He is half of the Pot Brothers at Law. If you haven't heard of him, go and find them on Instagram. They have a great Instagram page that is at Pot Brothers at Law. So yeah, there's a little sadness in my garden right now. I had about 7 plants in there between outdoor and in a cabinet, in a grow cabinet. I had about 7 plants. And when I went out of town for 2 weeks, I thought I gave pretty clear directions on what's going on in my garden. I guess not. A very close friend of mine that I asked to take care of my plants, whatever, didn't understand the directions, didn't follow them. Who knows, man? Some of the plants, some of the plants died. I think 3 of them died. The rest of them took some damage. And it was mostly just lack of water, things like that. Real basic stuff. They got too hot. So, yeah. Little sadness in my garden. I hope your garden's looking better. But the upside to the last couple of days is that I did crack about 30 hemp seeds the first time that I've cracked hemp seeds. It's the same kind of thing. They're all the same kind of seed, mostly. Same looking kind of seed, same kind of... I didn't crack them any differently than I would crack cannabis seeds. I believe the strain they told me was a brandy wine. I think that's what the name was. I did it with me and my buddy Justin. Shout out to Justin, brother. I've already got a couple of little seedlings. Also, so check this out, man. I've been trying to get press passes to go to the Cannabis 2019 up here in LA. And I sent an email to the person who's in charge of all that. But what I'm wondering is if any of you know anybody out there who's like responsible for handing out press passes at the Cannabis 2019, do me a favor, drop a little hint that the In My Grow Show wants to go and we're a great fucking outlet for it. I really want to go. For one reason, there's a lot of great speakers that are going to be there, and one of the persons I really want to see is the infamous Dr. Raphael Meshulam. He's going to be there, and I'd like to go talk to him, or at least to see the talk that he's going to give. I believe part of that talk is going to be on CBDA, or raw cannabis oil. So that's going to be really interesting, along with a lot of other things that are going on there, man. It just sounds like a lot of fun. Anyways, like I said, do me a favor, help me out, because I'd like to get a press pass for both for the whole weekend, because I can't pay for a ticket. I mean, the tickets are like $850. I just don't have that kind of cash for a 2-day ticket right now. So ergo, that's why I'm trying to get the press pass. So if you know someone who's in charge of that, let them know. Now, so one other thing I want to talk about is smoking out of aluminum cans. Okay, look, I know in a pinch, if that's all you have, you got to smoke out of aluminum can or roll up some foil paper and smoke it. Okay, I get it. But do me a favor, don't make it a daily thing that you do smoking out of an aluminum can. I've read some research to where doing stuff like that, aluminum is linked to, higher counts of aluminum in your bloodstream, so that it may affect, it may give you like dementia and Alzheimer's. And the reason I bring this up is because I was talking to a lady last week, or I was overhearing a lady last week talk about how when she has to smoke, which is daily from the sounds of it, she just uses a tin can. I'm like, man, if you're going to smoke that much every day, or at least on a daily basis, get yourself a nice piece of glass. And get yourself something that's meant to be smoked out of, not a tin can, please. Please. Now, I know there's also research out there that doesn't link aluminum to any of these problems, but you never know. That's all. You never know. Just don't smoke out of a tin can, man. That made me cringe when I heard it. That's it. That's my PSA for the day. Don't smoke out of tin cans. All right, now let's move on to the strain of the week. And I'm going to give it up to the Big Bud. Now, the Big Bud is a heavy indica flower. Yes, it is. And it's a very old kind of, I would call it like a legacy strain. It's been around since like the 90s. But when it's grown right, it still has that great floral taste. It's a little bit of fruity to me. As I was saying, it is a heavy indica, so it will give me couch lock. If I smoke even half a joint, I'm down for, a good 45 minutes, an hour. I won't move because it's just bam. But it's great for pain, and it's awesome for relaxation. If you have insomnia, Big Bud is the one you want to look for. A little bit of history of the Big Bud. On the internet, it says that it was developed in the U.S. before being brought to the Netherlands in the 80s to survive the war on drugs. And there you go, everybody. Big Bud. If you see it out there, pick some up. Now, next on the report from the Cannabis Frontline, I want to talk a little bit about weed maps. I spotted this article over at the Marijuana Business Daily. It's titled, Weed Maps Will Stop Advertising Unlicensed Cannabis It's titled, Weed Maps Will Stop Advertising Unlicensed Cannabis Retailers, and it was written by John Schroyer. So, back in like February, California came out and told Weed Maps that they had to stop advertising unlicensed cannabis dispensaries and delivery services. The state was saying that by them advertising those types of businesses, they were helping people break the law. They themselves were breaking the law, and that they should just stop doing it because it's also hurting the regulated market, the legal market. And back then, Weed Maps was saying, you know what, screw you guys, it's not our job to police these businesses. The state should have a better way of shutting down and finding these illegal businesses. That it's not Weed Maps' job. Weed Maps is just there trying to make money. So the state and Weed Maps have been going back and forth all year, and finally Weed Maps comes out and says they're going to stop advertising those types of businesses. So it sounds like the black market's going to have to go back to using Instagram. Basically, But you know what? Good on Weed Maps, because it really does help the legal regulated market when you don't have to compete with black market actors or black market businesses, businesses that don't have to be regulated and inspected. And there is a link in the show notes if you want to read that article. The other thing I want to talk about is in the news there's been a lot of reports of people going to the hospital because of vaping, because of vape cartridges. And I found this article over at normal.org, and it's entitled California Hospitalizations Linked to the Use of Unregulated Vape Cartridges. It says California health officials have identified a link between the use of unregulated vapor cartridges and patients seeking hospitalizations for respiratory distress. In each case, patients present symptoms of acute respiratory disease syndrome and possess a history of consuming either THC or CBD extracts via the use of unlicensed vape cartridges. The incident highlights the potential risk associated with the use of certain unregulated cannabis products. Concerns regarding the identification of adulterants and heavy metals in some unregulated cannabis extract products have always been there, says Deputy Director of NORML, Paul Armentano. And that's something I want to touch upon because back in the beginning of this year when California started testing for heavy metals, a lot of cartridges products were failing because since the terpenes are acidic, they were leaching some of the heavy metals out of the components from the cartridges. And like I said, a lot of products were just failing that heavy metal test because of that leaching. And those were on the regulated products. Now, people selling unregulated or black market products, they don't get tested, so they don't have to care if there is any kind of heavy metals coming back into your system. And then one of the main heavy metals that people are inhaling when they're using these products is lead. That's just one of them. You know, there are a whole bunch of others, but you get lead in your system, in your lungs, you're in a bad way, man, for a while. So just be careful, man. Err on the side of caution. Once again, if you're going to buy black market products, I mean, just be aware that it's very possible you're taking in a whole bunch of junk that you don't need, that shouldn't be in your system, and that shouldn't be in your cannabis products either. I know they're cheaper, I get that, but I mean, what are we risking here, you know? And that's why I'm a real supporter of a regulated market, because you don't know what a lot of people are putting in these products, and they're just trying to make a buck off of you. And in the end, you may wind up in the hospital like some of these young people. But you know, you're a grown adult. You can make your own decisions. But don't say nobody didn't warn you. Don't say nobody didn't tell you this. You know, because I'm here telling you this. That some of those products, they are going to leach heavy metals, and you're going to wind up inhaling them, and then you may wind up in the hospital. Anyways, once again, that's my second PSA. Didn't realize it was going to be a PSA show today. And that, my friends, is the report from the Cannabis Frontline. Now, like I said earlier, I had a long conversation with Mark Wasserman. He is a well-known California lawyer who specializes in cannabis business and criminal defense litigation. Him and his brother Craig have a law firm, but they're probably best known for being the Pop Brothers at Law. You can find them at popbrothersattlaw.com, or you can find them on Instagram at popbrothersattlaw. Now, I suggest you go over and find them on Instagram because that is a great feed. That's a great account. They have a lot of really good legal advice about, let's say, cannabis DUIs, what to do. And they always have a segment called Shut the Fuck Up Fridays. If you don't know what that is, once again, go over and find out. Now, I was told about them a few months ago by a couple of young guys that I work with. Shout out to Josh and Luis. They asked me if I knew who the Pop Brothers at Law were, and, you know, they told me about their Instagram page. I looked it up. And it was an awesome thing, man. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, I need to get these guys on the show. And Mark Wasserman was nice enough to come on the show. He was cool enough to give me a bunch of his time because, I mean, the guy's super busy, and he talked to me for a little over an hour, like an hour and a half, man. It was awesome. He was a great guy. So I'm going to play that conversation that I had with him. Hang tight. I'm going to play a little bit of music in between, and then I'm going to put that on for you. Okay, here we go. Well, brothers and sisters, get this. On the phone with me today, I've got Mark Wasserman. Him and his brother Craig are the Pot Brothers at Law. Mark, brother, how you doing today? Thank you for coming on the show.
I am fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. And before we get started, I have to say that I really, really enjoy your Instagram page, the Pot Brothers at Law, because it's talk about a source for legal advice. Plus, every once in a while, you get your brother Craig on there to show everybody how to roll a joint using a $100 bill, which is great education for everybody, you know?
Yes, So we try to add a little flavor in there.
Absolutely, and I saw you just had a birthday, too. I don't know how long ago that was, but a happy birthday.
Thank you. That was about a week and a half, July 25th. I turned 51.
Nice. Hey, man, you make it look really easy. I like your style.
Thank you.
Hey, so let's get into this real quick. The cannabis industry, especially in California right now, it's like wide open. Everybody's trying to find their niche and their hustle on how to get into it, but it's really hard to do it legally if you've got a cannabis charge on you. We hear about expungement everywhere. How easy is it really to get that charge expunged if it's a non-violent cannabis charge?
It's pretty well, for attorneys, it's pretty simple. And for somebody who does a little bit of research, who's not an attorney, it's not that difficult. If you have a felony for, possession or transportation or any of the cannabis crimes here in California that once were felonies, that are now either misdemeanors, infractions, or misdemeanors to infractions, or what once was an infraction now completely legal, then you're talking about filing some proper forms to get resentenced and then expunged. So it's form sensitive, and if the charge that you were convicted of meets the criteria, it's really a matter of filing forms. Now, every case is its own unique case, of course, and there can be different hiccups if things aren't finished with probationary terms or something like that. So, you're probably better off using an attorney just to make sure everything goes smooth. And if there's any issues, they can be combated properly. But by and large, it's not that difficult. And I wish, like Los Angeles and other counties in California followed suit with, I believe they did it in Frisco. I know New York did it, where they just automatically did it for people. So they didn't have to hire attorneys or counsel. It just went through the record. If you were convicted of a felony that is now a misdemeanor or an infraction, it was just automatically changed. But, that's not the case out here where we're at. But to answer your question, it's not that difficult if it falls within the category, and it's something that anybody who has a nonviolent marijuana conviction that's a felony, really should look into getting that reduced, terminated, or expunged. And it's interesting because those are crimes that happened prior to 2016, prior to Prop 64 being initiated here in California, which took all those felonies and made them misdemeanors. So if you pick up a misdemeanor possession charge now, it's a misdemeanor. It's not a felony. But you're not going to be able to get that expunged. If you picked up a misdemeanor in 2017, then you're looking at normal expungements versus resentencing or reclassification, which any general misdemeanor crime, once it's been a year after the conviction is done, you can move for an expungement. And you're going to get that if you have no other crimes and you've been clean. So that's pretty much how it works.
Okay, yeah, because I know, like, out here in Ventura County where I'm at, it's the same kind of thing. It's upon me, if I have that charge, to go out there and then petition the court to get it resentenced,
Correct.
to get it reviewed, basically. So, but do me a favor, though. Help me understand what exactly, because I'm kind of foggy on the details of what exactly expungement means. It doesn't mean that it's sealed forever and it's off your record and nobody can ever look at it, right? Because that's what when I talk about
it doesn't mean that.
Right, see,
What it means is this, and here's how it works. So let's say you get a DUI, 5 years ago or whatever, and then 5 years later you're off probation, because typically what we tell clients who are entering into any plea deal to get convicted of a crime, or you go to trial and you get convicted, you have a probationary period, usually between 3 to 5 years, and you finish that out, you stay clean for a year, and then you go in and file for an expungement, which, if granted, dismisses the case. Now, which means when you're going for an application or you're filling out forms, other than federal, governmental, state forms or things like that, you can answer the question, have you ever been convicted of a crime? You can say no. Now, if somebody goes and pulls your record, they're going to see that you were convicted of this crime, and then they're going to see that it was expunged and dismissed. And that's going to be on your record.
Okay, but
you're legally entitled to say you weren't convicted of anything if it has been expunged.
Okay, so it's not like it's sealed completely and nobody can ever look at it and go back and say, no, you have a history of, I don't know, you have a criminal past. No.
Right. They're not to use that against you, and it can't be used against you in that form if it's been dismissed. But it's there. It's there on paper. People can see that it was charged and then dismissed.
Oh, I got it. Okay. So now something else I was curious about is employment. Now, in the culture now of California, just everybody, it's just because it's legal status. Well, let's say quasi-legal status. Now, what recourse do I have? Let's say if I'm a cannabis patient and my employer gives me a drug test and I come up hot on that drug test, I come up dirty on it for cannabis and they fire me. Can I sue them or can I get my job back or what can I do?
Well, I mean, the answer is you can sue them. You can sue anybody for anything, but it'll be pointless as you have no leg to stand on. Unfortunately, they can do that. I believe right now there's 2 states. I think New York and, God, I want to say Illinois, but I'm not sure off the top of my head. But there's 2 states that have just made that so it can't happen. That employers can't fire somebody. But everywhere else, and here in California, you test positive for THC, that employer wants to fire or not hire based on that. They're well within their rights to do so.
So then until it's federally accepted, there's really nothing we can do. We just have to hope for the best and don't get tested still?
Yeah, well, hey, even when it's federally legal and off to Schedule 1, unless there's a specific law like these other 2 states made, employers are still going to be able to do that.
Really?
It's like if you go to work drunk, they're going to fire you. If you test positive for alcohol, even though that's legal, they're going to fire you, right? So
really? Even for alcohol?
It's still going to be up to the employers.
Oh, wow. Huh, I just
Until
assumed...
there's some kind of law that says, hey, you can, solely based on THC, you can't, especially somebody who's has a physician's recommendation.
Oh, wow.
But we're not there yet.
Right, so it has to be specifically written into the law then. Oh, I didn't realize that, man. I thought it was just as soon as...
2 other states did that. I'm sorry, I can't remember which 2 exactly, but that's what they did.
Wow, okay. Well, all right. So I want to change speeds a little bit with you, and I want to talk about what happened between you and your doctor getting mad at you. Because...
Oh, man, you're paying attention to something.
Hey, well, you know what? I just happened to come on that show when you guys did that, because you guys do a live Instagram show. What is it, at 6 p.m.?
We have an FM radio talk show called Cannabis Talk 101.
Okay.
That's probably what you were listening to, I'm guessing.
Well, I was watching. Yeah, you guys do one at the same time on Instagram, I think. Anyways, I was watching that one.
We put that live every Wednesday. We go live on Instagram. That's our FM radio talk show, 101.5 FM. And that's, I believe I was talking about it there.
So you had gone into the doctor and, okay, so tell the story, man, because it's really interesting. I just had to fucking laugh when I heard it.
Okay. And we're talking about Kaiser. I've been a Kaiser member since I was 10 years old, probably.
Oh, yeah, no, they're quite an institution out here, man. Yeah, for sure.
And I had an older brother was a doctor for Kaiser years and years ago. But so I've had problems with drinking in the past, and Kaiser has an addiction center, and I wanted to go and talk to a doctor, and their addiction center policy is complete abstinence from everything almost, and I'll get to that in a minute, but that's when you read their stuff, that's their policy, complete, you want to come in, it's, we stress complete abstinence. So when my first meeting with the psychiatrist, I said, I understand the policies here. I've been using cannabis for 25 years medicinally. It works for me. I'm not here to talk about that. I just want to talk about the problems I've had with alcohol, and I had stopped drinking. I don't drink anymore, but, I want to talk about those issues related to the alcoholism that I have suffered through for, most of my adult life. And she said, well, we really should discuss the marijuana use. And I said, well, I don't want to, because, and I don't mean this in any disrespectful manner, I know more than you about the endocannabinoid system, because I know you weren't taught that in medical school because they don't teach it. And I know you haven't studied any of it. And I have. And I've interviewed doctors and scientists and psychiatrists and everybody under the sun about all this, and I know much more about it, and I don't have a problem with it. I use it for what I use it for. And so we then went on to discuss things I wanted to discuss, and that was our first session. And they made me piss test, and charged me for it, which, okay, whatever, because I haven't drank, and I don't intend on drinking, and I haven't drank for a long time. So the next time I came back, they had me piss test again and charged me for it. And I asked the doctors, the psychiatrist, if I could get a refund when it comes back, negative for alcohol, because I don't drink anymore, and I don't want to keep taking these tests and just giving you another $20 every time I come in.
Is that what they were piss testing you for? Was alcohol?
What's that?
Was that what they were testing you for? Was alcohol?
Yeah, just alcohol. They were testing me for alcohol. Well, I don't know else they can look for anything they want, but I'm there for alcohol.
Sure.
I know what my nanogram count's going to be off the charts.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But that's of no consequence. I wasn't there for that. So then the first thing she says at the second session is, after she asked me how I was doing, and I said, I'm doing great. I still haven't drank. It's been so long. My intake of cannabis has increased a little bit, because I had a lot going on and this and that. She goes, oh, so you don't drink anymore, but you use more cannabis. Don't you think that's a problem? And I said, no, and I don't want to talk about this. I told you that before. There's nothing for us to talk about, because you can't be addicted to cannabis. Maybe emotionally, there's no physical addiction to cannabis. And she kind of got upset and said, look, I talk to people every day who are addicted to cannabis. And I said, tell me one of those persons that comes to you that it's just cannabis. Not cannabis and alcohol, not meth and cannabis and this, not opiates and it's never just cannabis. And she got up from her chair, opened the door, and said, I can't treat you, and asked me to leave. And I was beside myself. I said, I'm here for some talk therapy, and you're kicking me out because I'm talking to you, and I said something you don't like. And I walked out and wrote a nice firm letter to the administrator, got the number, contacted them, got a refund for my visit that they had charged me for. And the letter they wrote me back had the chief doctor of addiction medicine for Kaiser saying they agree with their doctor's assessment that I should not use cannabis. And this came from the chief of addiction medicine for Kaiser, who I never spoke to, who's never seen me, who writes a blanket statement that I should stop using cannabis. I then in turn wrote back and invited him to come on my show to talk to me about it. Haven't had a response yet. That's basically what happened.
Wow, that doctor just sounded like she got all bent because you questioned not just her authority, but fucking just made her have to re-examine what she's doing, or at least how she's presenting it, man. Because, yeah, I don't know, addiction therapy and no cannabis.
Right. I mean, it's just insane. But that's a lot of people are dealing with that with their doctors. And people are much worse off than I am. People who have cancer or kids with issues and stuff, and doctors won't even talk about it. Because the HMOs and the PPOs and the private companies they work for, who pay them, are making them continue with the opiates. We just got to open up the conversation more and break the stigma and get these people to study. I think that just now there's some colleges that are starting to teach the endocannabinoid system.
Yeah,
that alone, just knowing that doctors, that's not part of the curriculum in medical school, is ridiculous. Especially when there's no such thing as a opioid system in your body that opiates can connect with. That's why the cannabis is so, just ripe to be used with the human body, because of the cannabinoid system. So, I mean, it's mind-blowing to me. And but hey, if it was going to happen to anybody, I'm glad it happened to me, because like I pointed out in the letter, that doctor did that to somebody else. They could have been right at a bar. I mean, I thought about it. I left that doctor's office thinking, oh, man, do I want to drink right now. I just had a big fat joint, and I was fine.
There you go. See? No, but that is a good point, though, about that. If that would have happened to somebody else, people because once someone puts on that white lab coat, there's all kinds of authority that we assume behind it, that they know everything. That they're well informed. And then for them just to be, you're questioning my knowledge, my authority, everything I'm here for. I can't have it. Get out.
Right.
That just it tripped me out when I heard, man.
Yeah, that was a good one. You got me there. I wasn't expecting to talk about that, but I'm an open book. I don't mind.
No, right on. Well, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. I figured since you talked about it on your show, I could ask you about it. So, keeping on doctors, there is this thing out here in California about doctors prescribing growers a 99 plant count maximum. And as far as I know, that just doesn't hold up in court, a 99 plant count for a license.
Yeah, it is bullshit. It's made up. Okay, so when we talk about this stuff, we have to talk about Prop 215 and patients' rights, because there's a lot of misinformation out there and people don't understand. People think that their medical rights are gone because of Prop 64 and the regulations and all this and that. So no, I'm here to tell you that's not true at all. Prop 215, enacted in 1996, which gave cannabis patients the right to possess, grow for themselves, and consume. That's Prop 215. It has nothing to do with businesses or anything. Just your rights to get your physician's recommendation, which never expires until doctors put an expiration date on it so they could charge you every year. But when you look at the law and the case law, it never expires.
So, wait.
And, yes.
So you're telling me that we didn't have to, renew our license every year? That was just something that doctors put on there?
That is correct. Now, the problem is this. Here's what the problem has become. Because it became common practice and commonplace, such that a cop will look at it and go, this is like an expired driver's license. Oh, this is expired. Then when you get arrested and ticketed, and we go to court and do our motion and attach the case law that says, no, these don't really ever expire. And it doesn't even need to be written. It can be an oral recommendation. But at that point, you're going to need to bring your doctor into court to say that he orally told you that, So in order to avoid that situation, you're better off just getting it renewed. I mean, it's built up for 20 years now, since 1996, 23 years. That doctors have been doing this so they could make more money. Oh, and then some doctor somewhere said, well, I'm going to put 99 plants on here that you can use and charge you, $200 instead of $100 or $300. I've seen some for $500. And the fact of the matter is, you don't need that. As a cannabis patient with a physician's recommendation, you can grow as much as you medically need. Now, what that means is, if you have 100 plants in your backyard and you get busted and you're saying this is for my medical need, you have to prove it with your doctor, medical records, all your ailments, and then a cannabis expert to come in and say, okay, these 100 plants, they're grown, it yields this much, some of it makes into tea, some rubs, some oils, he uses it for this, he uses it for that, and it all breaks down, and he uses these 100 plants over, 8 months, all for himself. And that is your defense. Having a document that says, I can have 99 plants, doesn't do jack shit except line the pockets of dirty doctors.
Well, damn, I feel kind of ripped off for a couple of years now then. Not that I got a 99 plant count, but that I renewed my license every year like, I was fucking told on the date to do.
Yeah, and when people ask us, well, should I renew it? I'm like, you almost have to, because that could be the difference between getting taken into custody or not. Because a cop, they don't know. They don't know law. But that's, we talk about, and maybe this segues into Shut the Fuck Up Friday a little bit, but we talk about not saying anything when you're dealing with the cops, and and the time to argue is not then and there with the cop, it's at court later. And that's a prime example where, people have been arrested, and then we have to go into court with their doctor and their medical records and the expert saying this is why they grow so much, and then we get the case dismissed.
Right.
But you've gone through it.
Right. Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about Shut the Fuck Up Friday, since it is Friday.
It is.
Let's and this, and this is like a weekly favorite segment because you do it in different ways, but it's all the same message. So it's all about if you get pulled over with cannabis in the car, or a cop smells it. Basically, the thing is, shut the fuck up. All right. The script is the cop asks you something. You ask the cop, why did I get pulled over? Right. Then the cop asks me, what have I been doing? Like, have I been smoking? I just tell him I'm not going to discuss my day. Then I ask him, am I being detained? And if I am being detained, I invoke the fifth, which basically says what if I invoke the fifth? I don't get to incriminate myself. Don't say anything, basically. Shut the fuck up.
Correct. You're invoking your right to remain silent.
And especially if you are being detained or if you are being arrested, because everybody wants to argue right before they put the cuffs on, because nobody wants to get put in that fucking patrol car. Nobody wants to go downtown and even if you're right, nobody wants to fucking do that. So we all try to just, just start talking when we should just shut up.
Correct, because you're getting taken away anyway. And that's what, people have to understand. We live in a country where we give police and law enforcement a certain type of authority to walk around with guns and badges and, police. And we give them the authority to put people in handcuffs and take them to jail. And then we give people the right to defend themselves, quote unquote, innocent until proven guilty. But the time to fight that, as you said, is later in court. And so, there's no street justice, and you're not going to win the fight with the cop because you're not, and so unfortunately there's so much disconnect between law enforcement and citizens in interacting with each other. And that's one of the things that we were trying to do when we created the script, as we call it, which its real mission is to educate citizens on how to peacefully invoke their constitutional and civil rights when dealing with law enforcement in such a way so as to ensure the safety of law enforcement and all citizens. So by understanding the basic concept that if a cop pulls you over and they think something's going down, whether they're right or wrong, and more importantly, when they're wrong, that's really the issue. When they're wrong, for whatever reason, whether they have malice for doing what they're doing or it's an innocent mistake or whatever, and you know your rights, we see these things get blown out of proportion and cops doing things they shouldn't do anyway when they're instigated by somebody saying, I know my rights. You can't do this. I'm not, whatever. I'm not getting out of the car. And so that's where we really stress when you're instituting your rights like this and saying these words, you're polite, you're calm, you don't make any sudden movements or anything like that. You don't argue, you don't talk back. Just use those 25 words peacefully and do whatever the cop says. Roll your window down all the way. Maybe you don't have to, but roll it down. Get out of the car. Get out of the car. Put your hands behind your back. I saw a video. There was a video that went viral, I think last week or earlier in the week. A guy was being detained. He was told he was being detained, and the cop went to cuff him, and the guy, jerked away and moved, and then the cop pulled the gun on him. And I think the latter part of that video went viral, where it didn't really show. It just showed the cop pulling the gun and his girlfriend screaming and yelling, stop it, stop it. But when we actually posted about this, and within our post put pieces of the video indicating, hey, this is what this guy should have done. Of course, when a cop is has your hands and he's about to cuff you and you break free, of course he's going to pull his gun. You can't, what are you going to do? So it's just so important to try to maintain composure. And one of the big things we say, there's only room for one ego at a traffic stop. Let it be the cop. And later get your justice, because in court is where you can prove if they in fact violated your rights. And if in fact they did something horrendous to you under these circumstances that I'm explaining, the cop's not going to get away with it. 9 times out of 10, when we see the horrific things happen, either the cop doesn't get indicted, or if he does, he gets acquitted based on one simple defense. I was afraid for my life. This guy did this, and that's why I did what I did. God, he reached for something, got aggressive in my face, he was fighting back. If you're calm, polite, say these 25 words, you don't do any of those things, and then they beat down on you and do awful shit, they ain't getting away with it. They're going to jail, and you're going to get millions of dollars, in a civil suit, But as long as they're able to use that crutch, I was afraid for my life, they're going to continue to get away with it, And we have a lot of support from law enforcement. Most of them like to remain anonymous, but we get messages, all the time on our Instagram and other social media accounts from law enforcement, thanking us. You're helping make our job easier if people listen to you, and they won't violate and they won't incriminate themselves, So, but that's some cops. You have the other ones out there who are going to do what they can do, or try to do what they can do to get into your car. And that's what you also got to remember. When you get pulled over, your goal, you have opposing goals. Your goal as the driver is to get a ticket. I mean, nobody wants a ticket, but if you get pulled over, that's it. You get a ticket. You got pulled over, you sped, you didn't use your blinker, get your ticket and be on your way. The goal of the cop is to turn that pullover into much more than an infraction, but a misdemeanor or a felony, the dead body in the trunk, or the drugs somewhere. They're trying to find a way to get into your car. And by talking to you, that's the easiest way for them to start. And you just need to shut it down. And that's, pretty much what we've been telling our clients for, 23 years. But over the last 4 years on social media, once we got that platform thrown in our face somehow, we, figured we can do some good and just teach people how to do this. And we started coming up just as it was getting really bad over the last several years with law enforcement and citizens interactions. And, it's something that's needed. And we decided, I think about a year or so ago, Shut the Fuck Up Friday would be the best day to really hammer it home. And, we've been fortunate to get celebrities and other influencers to step in with us and teach people, especially celebrities and influencers who are minorities, to really get that home, because we get a lot, pushback sometimes, or, that's not going to work for us, and if I can touch on that for a second, when we say that's not going to work, we don't teach this to say you're not getting arrested. That's not what this is for. It's for if you get arrested, now we have a better chance of fighting and showing the cops did something dirty and illegal. So for those who feel it's not going to work for me, if you do what we say, and you're dealing with a racist, bigot cop who starts tasing you, or whatever, starts doing whatever he's going to do, if you have listened to us and have not been aggressive, and they do that, they're not getting away with it. That's the point. And that's what it's really for. And, the 3 R's, don't run, don't reach, don't run your mouth. Those are easy things to remember when you're dealing with law enforcement, along with our 25 words. And we crafted that over time because we're really trying to figure out how, can people interact. I mean, if you just went mute and didn't say anything, it's like we tell people, if you don't remember anything we say, just shut the fuck up. You don't say shit. And, nothing. And let them arrest you. Listen to, what they say. Put your hands behind your back and let them take you in if you don't remember anything else. But short of that, the conversation is just that 25 words. Because you don't want to get into any other conversation. None of their business, where you were going, what you were doing. We don't live in Nazi Germany or, some third world country where they can come stick a gun in your head and tell me whatever I want to know. No. They can stick a gun in your head and arrest you, but you don't have to say a word. No matter if it's at a checkpoint, a border stop, anything. You don't have to say one word. That's your constitutional right here in the United States, whether you live here or whether you're visiting here from anywhere else.
Hey, Mark, so let's talk a little bit about that traffic stop and consent for a search. That goes along with just shutting up, because if a cop leans in and he smells pot, he's going to ask me, hey, can I search your car? I'm going to say no, because I know he's going to do it anyways. But at least that way I've got some kind of defense as far as an illegal search. Is that right?
Yeah, because smell alone is no longer probable cause for a cop to search. And from what we've seen in the last 2 years, 3 years actually, since, this 64 came into play in 2016. So in the last 3 years, we've been seeing cases where cops say in their report they searched for the smell. Now, if we had somebody who shut the fuck up, I'm salivating when I read that, because we do our motion and we've gotten them cases dismissed. The DAs don't even go forward with it at that point. They just dismiss it. I think we've gotten 4 or 5 of those dismissed where it's based on smell. Now, by the same token, here's a great example of not shutting the fuck up and thinking, oh, well, I have a little because it's okay. Up to an ounce, if you're 21 and over, you can have it, right? You can have it. So we had a case just recently where the cop searched for smell, but when they asked the driver, who unfortunately didn't see our videos until 2 days after he was arrested, which we get a lot of. We get a lot of that, unfortunately. But where do you have any pot? And he said, yeah, I have a little, and showed her, I don't know, maybe like an eighth that was in a little plastic baggie that he had in the center console. So she got him out of the car and she searched and she found 10 pounds in the trunk.
Oh, geez.
So we argued, because she said she was searching for a strong smell, that there was no probable cause to search. The judge all but agreed with us, right up until the point he said, but your client said he had a little, which gave the officer the right to see if he was telling the truth or not. Done.
Oh, wow.
So
really,
that's the importance. Those words, I have a little.
So if she would have
say that,
so she would have
we would have got the case dismissed.
If they would have just kept quiet and just said nothing.
Correct. And let the cops search for that smell.
Because they were going to search
long.
anyways. They were going to search anyways.
Correct.
That's a given.
Correct. Now, just because that smell is improbable cause doesn't mean you should go around if your car is smelling like it, because why go through the hassle? Plus, they're going to pull you out for DUI allegations and all that. I mean, so, we suggest keeping your car smelling fresh. We have clients or not clients, people who have met. I'm going to just keep it smelling just so I can hire you if they fuck with me. We don't want that, and we stress keep your car deodorized. But if they start going down that road, know in the back of your head that keep my mouth shut and do what you want all day long with that smell, that ain't probable cause.
Yeah, I mean, best practices. If you know you're going to be whatever, if you're going to have it in the car, have it in the back seat, have it in the trunk. Because
if you're transporting any of it in any fashion, because now you can get open container tickets if you have half a joint or whatever. You want to keep it all locked in the trunk.
Yeah, because
you go to a dispensary to make a purchase, it should go right in the trunk. If you don't have a trunk, you should carry around a little lock box that you put it in the box, lock it, and keep it in the back.
Yeah, because I've discovered that fuck you attitude is the difference between a 15-minute ticket or a 45-minute hassle next on the side of the road.
Yeah, and while, there's good and bad everybody. Good and bad attorneys, doctors, and you never know who you're going to get. Now, the people who are in most danger are those who have been pulled over and had some on them and maybe had a few drinks or whatever, and the cop let them go. Didn't care. That was that cop. So you get people who maybe that happened a time or two, and they go, well, the next time they get pulled over, I'm just going to be honest and tell the cop. The last 2 times I got away. They let me go, so it must not be a big deal. You never know which cop you're going to get. And you don't know, maybe you got the cop whose partner was shot a month ago. Who knows? Cops do pull up for traffic tickets and get shot. It happens. So it's not like they have an easy job. And our job as citizens, we believe, is to, make them feel at ease. When you pull over, put your hands on the steering wheel. Let them know where your hands are. Roll your window down. Let them know you're not a threat. So you put them at ease right away. It's, we give seminars 1.5 hours on how to get pulled over. And that conduct, like you said, could be the difference between a quick ticket stop or even just a warning to, being detained for 45 minutes to an hour to getting arrested.
Yeah.
We do hear from a lot of people all across the country, everywhere, that they do it. They did it. We have testimonials. I shut up, and the cop gave me a warning. The cop let me go. This is what I had, and blah blah blah. So that it works. It works. It can save lives and a lot of headache and hassle, and which is why we're really pushing this to just get the most exposure we can for people until we stop getting these calls where when I ask, okay, what did you say? Yeah, I didn't listen to your video because I just watched it after it happened. Or my friend told me after, And so we pushed anyone listening to this, take 2 or 3 of your friends and relatives and call them right now and go, hey, look, I just learned this. When the cops pull you over, do this. Go check out the Pop Brothers Law, do this, and tell them to tell 2 people, and so on. And let's spread it like wildfire. It has spread to some degree, but we haven't reached nearly enough people because there's still all these incidents. And we hate taking these videos that go viral and showing the cops doing these horrendous things, and then we're in there going, it's horrible, but fuck, if he would have done this, if he wouldn't have done that, it might have ended different.
Yeah.
And that's what we're really trying to preach.
Yeah, for sure. And I appreciate it, man. It's I love all the information. Hey, Mark, real quick, can we talk about impairment as opposed to just being high? Because a lot of us don't understand the difference that, there is that the question is impairment. Are you impaired to drive? Are you able to drive? And we're not advocating get high as fuck and see how you can drive.
Well, and then you see billboards all over the place on freeways that say, driving high is a DUI. I've seen that billboard. It's probably more dangerous to read a billboard while you're driving than to smoke a joint. But that being said, it's not illegal. First of all, when we're talking about impairment and DUIs, we're talking about driving under the influence of anything, whether it's a prescription medication, whether it's cannabis, whatever it is, alcohol, of course, meth, whatever, any drug, alcohol, anything. You could be impaired from sleep deprivation. I didn't sleep for 82 hours and then I decided to drive. That could be driving under the influence of sleep deprivation, as a hardcore example. That being said, when it comes to alcohol impairment, we have in California, and in all states, there's a limit, a legal limit. Here in California, it's at 0.08, right? 0.08 blood alcohol level is a presumption that you are impaired to drive. Now, and that's the prosecution has a legal presumption on their side when your blood alcohol is 0.08 or more. And that's based on, decades of scientific evidence and studies and all that kind of good stuff. And that presumption can be rebutted. For instance, somebody who weighs 90 pounds and is 0.08 versus somebody who weighs 320 pounds and has 0.08, it's obviously going to affect them differently. But the legal presumption is that you're impaired to drive. Now, when it comes to cannabis, there is no such number for nanogram count because THC stays in your body for, could be 30, 60 days. And when we're talking about THC, there's different types of THC. THC, THCA, carboxy THC, which is the THC that shows up in your blood long after the psycho effects have been deteriorated and they're not psychoactive anymore.
So the lingering THC is called carboxy THC?
Carboxy THC.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's why it's important to have if you get a DUI for one of these, that you have an attorney who knows about these things. A lot of attorneys don't. A lot of prosecutors don't. And they go, look at the THC level without even breaking down the different types of THC, which we have to then go into with our experts and say, no, well, all of it's carboxy THC, which is non-psychoactive. So what? What are you talking about? So it's important that you get the right person defending you if you get stuck with one of these. And more important that you shut the fuck up because of the fact there's no... Now, let me also throw, I'm not talking to people who are impaired. If you're swerving all over the road and you shouldn't be driving and you didn't Lyft, Uber, whatever, then I'm not talking to you. If you had a couple of drinks, if you're an adult and you know your limits and you know you're not impaired, then that's who I'm talking to. And by not saying anything, take someone who drinks. Had a couple drinks at the bar. Maybe they had 5 shots at the bar over 6 hours, and they're not drunk, and maybe their blood alcohol might be 0.08 or even 0.07 or whatever. They get pulled over and the officer says, well, how many drinks have you had tonight? Everybody's favorite response seems to be 2. And if you think about it, what you just did was admit to the cop that you drank and then you drove. And, now he is well within his rights to suspect that you might be DUI. And now he can start searching for open containers and doing all sorts of things that he would otherwise be unable to do if you kept your mouth shut. And that leads into you never lie to the cop. How many drinks did you have? 1, 2, 0. You never lie. So you just say, I'm not discussing my day when you get into that situation. So for a DA to prove impaired driving on a cannabis case is very difficult unless someone says, well, I smoked an hour ago, I smoked 24 hours ago. Because that statement, when put before a juror of 12 people, you don't know how they're going to react. You get the reefer madness lovers in there. Oh, you smoked a couple hours ago. You must be high. You shouldn't have drove. So it becomes even more important that you keep your mouth shut when you're in that situation. And in California, you do not have to do the field sobriety test on site. They're voluntary. Touch your nose, walk the line, follow the finger. Those are geared and designed to make you fail. And so you don't have to do those. They're voluntary. You decline to do those. If you get arrested and they have you in custody, then you have to do a blood, breath, or urine test under what's known as the implied consent law, which you agree to when you sign your name on the driver's license. You're saying, if an officer pulls me over and alleges I'm DUI and arrests me for it, I have to take a chemical test. If I refuse, the DMV will take my license for 1 year. And you always want to do the blood test because the breath test is gone once you breathe. So we can't take it to a lab. Blood is better than urine for a lot of different reasons, for our lab to do testing and do a blood split and all that kind of other stuff. But you can't refuse, or the DMV will take your license for a year. So, just because you had a couple of hits, everybody's different. I get some flack sometimes. I'm on social media. I dab, I smoke, I as people always ask, I just saw you took a dab and then you went into court. Yeah, it's medicating. I medicate the way I need to medicate as I see fit. That's good for me. It doesn't impair my driving. And if it does, I'm not driving. It doesn't impair my work. It helps me with my focus and a slew of other things. So I don't have any problem. I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to hide it at all. And I'm just going to be smart about it. And like I said, if I'm impaired, and that's, every stoner has their alcoholic friends who, oh, well, you just smoked that joint. Well, look, guess what? I'll take a hit. You take a shot. I'll take a hit. You take a shot. Let's do that for a half hour and see what happens. We already know. We already know what's going to happen to the guy doing the shots of Jack Daniels and the guy smoking a joint. There's no comparison. So it's more reefer madness and more fear being instilled when you hear all this stuff. Don't drive high. Don't this and that. It's don't drive impaired. Be responsible as with anything. If you're too tired, don't drive. It's the same concept. And you need to know yourself and be responsible. And if you get in that situation, and unfortunately, because of the way it's looked at and because of the stigma, when you get pulled over and the cop smells that, they're going to put you through the ringer. And at the end of the day, you can come out ahead if you stick to the script and shut the fuck up.
There you go. Everybody shut the fuck up. That's exactly it. Well, hey, Mark, I know you're a busy guy, brother, and I want to thank you for getting on the phone with us and talking to us about all of this, man.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. And be happy to do it again sometime. And, we'll have to talk about getting you on our talk show. You're in Ventura. We go live every Wednesday in Newport Beach at the radio station. So we'll talk about bringing you on as a guest to discuss what you do in your show and all that, if that sounds good for you.
That'd be great, man. That'd be awesome. I look forward to that. But do me a favor. Let everybody know how to find you and Pop Brothers at Law on the internet and on terrestrial radio.
Absolutely. So we have a website, potbrothersatlawcom. Our big social media wheelhouse is Instagram, which is POT_brothers_at_law. And then we also have Pop Brothers at Law on Twitter, LinkedIn, pretty much all social media, YouTube, Google. We're out there. And then every Wednesday at 6 p.m., Cannabis Talk 101. And you can follow Cannabis Talk 101 on all social media platforms as well. 101.5 FM KOC Radio, KOCI Radio, and KOCIRadio.com streams live every Wednesday at 6 p.m. for our show, which is actually, we're very close to going national with iHeart. So you can look for it there as well. And if anybody wants to talk to us, you can call our toll-free line, 855-WASSLAW, WASSLAW. Mention you heard us here on The Grow Show, and we'll give you discounted rates, discounted consultations and rates if you want to set something up.
Yeah, for sure, everybody. I really do encourage you to go find them. If just not for the entertainment value, but for the education, as far as like just the great stories and just the advice that they give out. Mark, do me a favor.
Yeah, one other thing. We're actually September 25th to September 28th. We will be at the Los Angeles Convention Center with the Cannabis World Business Congress Expo, the CWCB Expo, where we'll be doing live shows and celebrity interviews and all that kind of stuff. So,
oh, wow.
CWCB Expo, check that out in September at the LA Convention Center.
Wow, far out. That's cool. All right, Mark, do me a favor. Don't hang up. Okay? Everybody else, I'm going to play some music, and I'll be right back. Now, was that cool or what, man? That guy was awesome. I want to say thank you again to Mark for taking the time to talk to me, man, to educating me about a lot of stuff I did not understand about the law. Again, go find them on Instagram at popbrothersatlaw or just on the internet, popbrothersatlaw.com. Now, don't forget, if you have a question or a comment about this episode, you can send an email to inmygrow@gmail.com, or you can find me on Instagram, that is at inmygrow. You can also find me on Cannabis. Just look for Alex Robles, Robles. Well, brothers and sisters, once again, that is the end of the show. That is all that I have for you today. I want to thank all the artists who let me use their music to put the show together. And I want to thank you once again for showing up and listening, man. I appreciate it. Now, if this episode has entertained you, educated you, or even given you a little escape from your day, do me a favor and go over to patreon.com/inmygrowshow and leave a financial donation. Those funds just help me put the show together. They help me pay for hosting fees, and they help me buy equipment also. Now, if you don't want to leave a donation at Patreon, go over to inmygrow.com, click on the Support the Show tab, and you can buy a t-shirt also. Another way you can help is before you go shopping on Amazon, click on the Amazon link in the show notes of this episode, because that'll let them know that we sent you and the show gets a commission. Now, if you can't help the show financially, don't worry about it, man. I get it. Okay, but here's how you can help. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to it. Subscribe to the website, inmygrow.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And then tell 3 other people about the show. Really simple, really painless. Now also, if you are a cannabis company, a hemp company, or anything related to that, and you want to advertise to our worldwide audience, send us an email at inmygrow@gmail.com. All right, brothers and sisters, hermanos y hermanas, mi gente, my people, I'm going to get up out of here. I hope you guys have a beautiful week. You know I love you all very much. And remember to always grow, learn, and teach.